So I guess, one of being a younger American, you look at this debt, and we just hit 13 trillion, and not even much, no one really even talked much about it. I don't think I heard much on the news about it at all.
Yeah.
What's the problem? Why can't
My coat, would you?
Congress seem to get their act together when it comes to spending? Do we need to, is the problem systemic? Is there something with Congress we need to do?
And this is going to sound harsh. The problem is Congress is focused on the next election, not the next generation.
Right.
And so therefore, what are they focusing on? How do I look good?
Mm-hmm.
And the only way to change that is the American people to demand a change. And if they start thinking, I'm not going to get reelected if I don't do what the American people want in terms of taking care of the debt, then they'll start taking care of the debt. But they haven't got that message. I was going to tell your listeners a little factoid, which I thought was really interesting. How many of them really know what $1 trillion is? It's hard to get your hand around.
It's such a huge number, and it gets thrown around.
Let's think about it in terms of seconds.
Yeah.
If you spent $1 trillion and you reflected that in seconds, how many years in seconds would that be? It's 31,709 years before you'd run 1 trillion seconds. Now think about that. 31,709 years? That's what's in 1 trillion seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got 13 trillion in debt right now. We're running a $1.4 trillion deficit, nominally, 1.6 trillion real. This year we're going to run $1 trillion debt for the next 8 years under the present plan. We're going to double the debt, the real external debt, every 5 years. And in 10 years from now, the debt will be triple what it is today. So instead of having $13 trillion worth of debt, of which 8.5 is external, we're going to have $24 trillion worth of debt.
And so do we actually get to that point? At some point, do the markets kick in?
No, the markets,
they're
not going to let us do it.
Is there some correction that hits the U.S.?
Yeah,
and we're talking even a more, like a major recession.
No, what you're talking about is a markedly lowered standard of living for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And those people living on fixed incomes are hurt the worst.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about creating a fiat currency or inflating your currency to cover it. It's one or two. You either become austere,
yeah,
and become more efficient and live within your means and start paying off your debt, or the international financial community will punish us. And the only way we'll get out of that is to inflate our way out of the debt, which hurts everybody in the country, but hurts the weakest and poorest the most.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's going to happen unless we change who's in Washington.
And so how do we do we have to vote people out to get them focused on the debt?
Think about who's here.
What about I've heard people talk about, maybe imposing term limits or extending the terms that people in the House, the people in the House serve.
You can't get term limits because they have to be voted on in a constitutional
and no one's going to vote for them.
And the people that are here. It goes back, who's here? 70% of the people who are in Congress, let me rephrase it, 70% of the people in the Senate are career politicians. Mm-hmm. In other words, they have no real career outside of politics.
Right.
Why would you expect them to have a great knowledge and understanding and frame of reference with which to make critical decisions on things like that?
Mm-hmm.
When they've used the system their entire period of time to advance their political career, not to advance the country. So until you change who's here and what their mindset is, it's going to be very difficult for us to change that.
Yeah.